Matt Harvey may have fallen short in his bid to make history last night, but all the young right-hander did was burnish a very quickly growing legend, as he has established himself quickly as one of the best pitchers in the game. Mike Baxter played hero last night, and it all ended up to a feel-good moment for the Mets, who try to go for a sweep of the White Sox tonight. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Chicago White Sox. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets and White Sox wrap up their two-game series. Last night, one of the great moments in Mets history, one of the great pitching performances ever by a Met. 9 shutout innings by Matt Harvey, 1 hit and 12 strikeouts.
Well, he was bloodied to start, but it was he left the Chicago White Sox bloodied. I was talking to former Cy Young Award winner Steve Stone, and he said, I can appreciate he throws 95 miles an hour. I can appreciate the break on his curve, the sharpness of his slider. What I didn't appreciate, he also throws his changeup for strikes. This is the hit, of course, the one hit, the speed of Alex Rios, who's had over 20 stolen bases the last 2 years. Really, that speed cost him there, but he rebounded and struck out 12, didn't walk anybody, in one of the finest performances I've seen as an announcer here.
He did not get a decision in the game, and it was historic in that regard, too. No pitcher since 1900 had ever had that good a night without getting a decision. Now the ball gets handed to Jeremy Hefner, and a lot was made of Harvey having extra rest going into his last start. The same is true for Hefner tonight.
Same with Hefner, Gary, but the good thing about Jeremy is his last 2 starts, he's righted the ship. His last start, even though he got a loss, he was outstanding for the first 8 innings, gave up a couple singles in the 9th.
And on the other side, former Cy Young Award winner Jake Peavy, who's back, apparently is now feeling better.
Well, he's always pitched well against the Mets, 123 wins, a solid year last year, Cy Young Award winner in 2007.
When we come back from break, Kevin Burkhardt will be standing by with a live interview with last night's hero, Matt Harvey. It's the Mets and White Sox wrapping up a 2-game series the night after. All the action coming your way tonight right here on SNY. And standing by right outside the Mets dugout, Kevin Burkhardt with Matt Harvey.
Well, Matt, John Buck said last night it was almost like a video game. He'd put the glove a certain place and the ball would hit it. What did it feel like, the guy who was actually doing the pitching?
It kind of felt like that. I mean, you know, I don't know necessarily what was causing that, but you know, last night for you know, all pitches, it was pretty fun, and you know, he was calling a great game, and fortunately enough, I was able to execute, and you know, seeing him back there and having the confidence in the world, you know, it made me out there have even more confidence, and you know, he did a great job.
You know, we've obviously seen all of your pitches, and you had them all working for strikes last night, but your curveball is, I feel, so underrated. Why is that pitch, do you think, underrated, and how much of a weapon can that be for you?
Well, that's kind of you know, a tell of how my mechanics are going. If my curveball is working and I can throw it for a strike, that usually means everything's going pretty smoothly. So, you know, last night for me, it was a good first pitch strike, and then I was able to bounce it when I needed to, and you know, that always helps. Why is that a barometer for your other pitches mechanically? Well, it's something I really have to you know, stay back on. That was a hard one. Yeah, they cut me in the face. That was John Buckish. Yeah, so it's you know, something I definitely have to stay back on, and you know, once I can able to do that, then everything else starts working. You know, just for you, you know, we see you can be you're a very laid back guy, but when you get between those lines, you turn into something else. What do you turn into once you get on that mound? I don't know. It's me. It's different. Tim Burdack would like me to say it's my alter ego, but no, I have fun out there, and you know, take things seriously. Matt, it was fun to watch. Good luck. We'll see you soon. Thanks for the time. Thanks. Matt Harvey, guys. We'll see if Jeremy Hefner can follow that up tonight. It's the Mets and the White Sox. Mets going for the 2-game sweep. First pitch coming up next on SNY.
By Cholula Hot Sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. By your Tri-State Cadillac dealer. Visit CadillacTristate.com to search local offers and find a dealer near you. By Parts Authority Auto Parts Superstores, where the answer is always yes. By Heineken. And by Audi, truth in engineering. There's your Hyundai starting lineup for the White Sox. Robin Ventura's had to choose between his two first base DH types. Adam Dunn started last night. Paul Konerko goes tonight with Dunn on the bench for the White Sox, who became just the third team in history to manage just one base runner in a 10-inning game.
Well, you can see the numbers here by Jaguar for Jeremy Hefner, looking for his first win this year after being touched for 7 home runs in his first 4 appearances, none in his last 15 innings. Defensively behind Jeremy, Alexis Mets defense. Valdespin's 10th start in center field, flanked by Duda and Baxter. You can see Murph playing an awfully good second base with Tejada, Wright, and Davis. And John Buck, of course, doing the catching. Every day, John Buck.
Alejandro De Aza will lead off for the White Sox. 0 for 4 last night. There are a lot of 0-fers in that lineup last night. The White Sox dead last in the American League in runs scored, and last night certainly did not help. But for Jeremy Hefner, getting through the first inning has been a struggle this year. He's got a 10.8 ERA in the first inning, 6 runs in 5 first innings this year. And so to take on De Aza to lead off, and the first pitch of the night is in for a strike. It'll be De Aza, then Alexei Ramirez, and Alex Rios for the White Sox in the first. Chicago at 13-18 on the year. Curveball misses to De Aza, 1-1. Hefner pitched at Gem his last time out in Miami 8 days ago. Took a shutout into the 9th inning. Allowed the first 2 men to reach. They both eventually scored, and he wound up a losing pitcher. But for Jeremy Hefner, as good a game as he has pitched at the major league level.
You know, he's had a couple of those starts when everything is working, and it was in that game in Miami. Didn't work out, of course, for him, but always look at that number. The 0 walks, 8 Ks. He's a guy that's a strike thrower.
Those strikeouts were a career high for him as he runs the fastball inside to De Aza, 2-2. After 27 years old from Perkins, Oklahoma, Alexei Ramirez waiting on deck. And De Aza cranks one to deep right field, back toward the wall, and it's out of here. Alejandro De Aza with his 6th home run of the year leads off the ball game with a home run, and it's 1-0 Chicago. 6th career leadoff home run for De Aza. So after being held to just 1 infield single last night, the White Sox with a bonanza in the first batter of the game.
You know, when I was looking at those numbers for Jeremy Hefner, and I mentioned the home runs, that's the thing that gave him a lot of trouble early this season in April. And he cannot keep the ball in the park here against De Aza.
Fastball strike to Alexei Ramirez. Well, the White Sox, the one thing they do well offensively is hit home runs. That's their 37th of the year. Murphy in front of the ground ball from Ramirez in the sunshine into the shade for the first down. It's like the spotlight was on Murph there.
Well, he's such an unlikely leadoff hitter. He has 40 strikeouts, including a few last night against Matt Harvey, but he has tremendous power.
Ronnie, let me ask you this question, because nobody would know this better than you. When the guy before you has pitched an absolute gem and you've watched it from the dugout, does it feel different when you go to the mound the next day?
Well, it feels different in a couple of ways. One, the buzz that was in the ballpark the night before usually is gone. Second, there usually isn't as many people. And even more importantly, the team that got really ridiculed, just stomped over the night before, are so happy that there's a new day and a new pitcher out there.
Might have a little anger in them, too.
Right, exactly. That's what I can blame those losses on. Dwight, his fault.
Alex Rios had the only hit for the White Sox last night, a single to deep short that he barely beat out. Well, how did you handle that mentally?
Honestly, I did not handle it very well early in my career, and I'll tell you why. Dwight was so good and so dominant that I felt as though I had to match it. And the only way to match him was to match it in strikeouts. And I was not a strikeout pitcher. Once that I got it through my thick skull to be myself, then everything became easier.
Slow ground ball for Tejada, and this time Rios doesn't get out of the batter's box and merely jogs to first and is thrown out.
Well, he breaks the bat and looks at the bat.
Well, if I know Robin Ventura, he will wait for the appropriate time and then make it quite clear to Mr. Rios that that is not acceptable.
Well, unless he's hurt, that's disgraceful. Simply.
He wasn't hurt last night.
Yeah.
He was able to.
I guess if it's going to be a hit, he'll run.
I mean, if he's hurt, as Connor Gillespie takes the strike, if he was hurt, Matt Harvey would have had a perfect game last night. Gillespie was 0 for 3 last night. And by the way, I want to apologize because I spent the entire game last night mispronouncing Connor Gillespie's name. It looks like Gillespie.
Yes.
But it's Gillespie.
You got to think Dizzy.
I can't see Connor with those cheeks.
That's right. Oh, well.
Just pretend the A is an E. Anyway, he's off to a pretty good start despite his 0 for 3 last night, hitting a .280 on the year, picked up in spring training from the Giants. And a breaking ball in the dirt, 2-2 to Gillespie. With Paul Konerko on deck.
Not many times you get the cleanup hitter with 5 RBI.
Now, it's been a real struggle for the White Sox. Dunn and Konerko off to rough starts. Diane Vicieto on the disabled list. Gordon Beckham on the disabled list. And another ground ball. This one for Murphy. Again in the spotlight. Makes the play. 3 ground ball outs for Hefner. After the leadoff home run from Alejandro Diaz, gets the White Sox on the board for the first time in this series. 6th of the year for Diaz. 1-0 Chicago as the Mets come to bat. Terry Collins getting every available left-handed bat into the lineup against Jake Peavy, who's been notoriously tough on righties throughout his career.
Well, Peavy's stats here presented by Toyota. 123 wins in his career, 1,787 strikeouts. And I mentioned that Cy Young Award in 2007. He was 19-6 that year with 2.54 ERA.
Danny Valdes-Bean leads off and takes a fastball for a strike. And if you're going to stand around and wait for Peavy to walk you, it's not going to work. 6 walks in 32 innings this year. He is a strike thrower and always has been. 3-time All-Star. And Valdes-Bean trying to drag a bunt. Thinks better of it and takes the ball 1-1.
It's going to be real interesting to see what the Mets do, because you mentioned that he's a strike thrower. He also has that wipeout slider. So if he gets ahead of you, he can put you away. So the Mets are going to have to swing early in the count.
One and 1 to Valdes-Bean. And he takes the off-speed pitch for a strike. Well, Peavy's now 31 years old, drafted by the Padres out of high school in Mobile, Alabama back in 1999. Got to the big leagues in a big hurry. And he was the ace of that Padres staff for 4 or 5 years. Finally traded at the trading deadline to the White Sox in 09. Had some physical issues to deal with for a couple of years, but bounced back. And last year, despite having a losing record, had a terrific season for the White Sox. And off to a fine start this year, just delayed a little bit by some back spasms that have caused him not to pitch for 12 days. Toward the middle of the diamond, flagged out nicely by Ramirez, and the spin around picked nicely at first by Konerko. That's a great play by Ramirez, and just as good at the other end by Konerko for the out.
Well, what you like to see there is the amazing range by Ramirez. This is a guy who's 6'2", 180 pounds, long and lean, and that reach allows him to get to that ball up the middle from Valdespin. Athleticism from Ramirez. Fist bump on the first out.
Double fist bump. He's pumped. It's Daniel Murphy, and he fouls back the first pitch he sees from Peavy. Murphy's one of 3 Mets in the lineup tonight who have seen Peavy before. It's been 4 years since the Mets have faced Jake Peavy. He's 5-2 lifetime in 10 starts against New York. Fly ball out to left, and Diaz is right there. And that's the second out. You know, I was looking at the lineup tonight thinking, well, you know, Robin could have put Adam Dunn in left field. He started him there a couple of times this year, but having Diaz has already paid off.
That's right. Diaz on the left, Wise and Rios, Gillespie, Ramirez, Green, and Konerko at first base, and Tyler Flowers, who does most of the catching. You know, they were talking about Adam Dunn playing a little outfield, but certain ballparks don't let him play. This one, a little vast.
So now David Wright bats with 2 out and nobody on. David 0 for 3 last night, had his 3-game home run streak in. There's Adam Dunn, who played first base last night for the White Sox. He and Konerko have basically split the first base play and the DH play. And both will play the field about half the time. Konerko 37 years old, Dunn 33. And Wright takes away from Peavy 1-1. David's 2 for 14 against Peavy. Gives you an idea of the success or lack thereof that the Mets have had against this outstanding right-hander.
You know, the thing about Peavy is that we showed his height and weight before. You know, he's in that class of Roy Oswalt, David Cone, right-handers that are a little short, 6'1", 6 feet. Usually they're Harvey size.
Now the 1-2, and David fouls back that fastball. Well, the White Sox have hung their hat on starting pitching, and it's been that way for a long time. All the way back to before they won the World Series in 05. For the last 10 years, they've had more quality starts than any team in the major leagues. On the outside corner, Peavy gets that extra inch from Mark Carlson. And Wright is caught looking. 1-2-3 go the Mets. 1-0 White Sox after 1.
That's the High Line there, Gary. You been there yet? On the west side?
I hate to say this, but no, I have not.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Great place to hang out. You, I know, would bring a book.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Great place to read.
Well, here's Paul Konerko. This game features 2 of the 3 captains currently in Major League Baseball. David Wright for the Mets and Konerko for the White Sox. And like David, and like the other captain in Major League Baseball, the disabled Derek Jeter, none of them wears a C on their uniform. And if Keith had to do all over again, he wouldn't have either.
That's right. Is that what he said? He would. Oh.
The one series the Mets played against the White Sox before tonight was back in 2002 in Chicago, and in that series, Paul Konerko went 4 for 10 with 3 home runs. And Hefner strikes him out on 3 pitches. Foul tip held by Buck for the first out. Time for the lows never stop improving as we look at Jeremy Hefner's numbers.
Well, we saw
plenty of improvement.
Yeah, we mentioned it. A little change in that bottom right. Although I see the last 2 games. You're right, 15 innings. His last start, like you said, was just outstanding.
Here's Dwayne Wise, the center fielder, and he lines a base hit the other way. So Wise, who's had the hottest bat in the White Sox lineup, has a 1-out single, and Chicago has their second hit. So they're now 1 ahead of last night's output. 1 out and 1 out. Here's Tyler Green, the former Cardinal who spent last year with the Astros and was released by Houston in spring training.
That's a look in the mirror moment, isn't it?
You know, it's probably as much a tribute to Tyler's age as anything else, because the Astros have made a point of trying to get younger as they completely strip down. But it's hardly something you want on your resume.
Didn't they just let Rick Ankiel go, I believe, right?
And Fernando Martinez.
Oh, gee. Yep. Well, Tyler Green was a #1 pick for the St. Louis Cardinals, and last year they were looking at him to play a lot of second base, but it didn't quite work out.
It's never hit quite the way they expected when they made him a first-round pick out of Georgia Tech. Wise at first and 1 out. And Hefner throwing nothing but strikes here in the second inning. Tyler Flowers, the #8 hitter on deck. Hefner took a shutout to the 9th inning in his last start and wound up with a loss. It was the first time that a Met pitcher had that happen to him since Doc Gooden in 1988. Took a shutout to the 9th against the Cardinals late in the season and wound up with a loss. So it's a rare event. But it just gives you an idea what kind of hard luck Hefner pitched in that game in Miami.
Was that the game afterwards that Parnell had a few words? Not words, but he wanted to be in there in that 9th inning, or?
Yeah, Brandon Lyon came in after Parnell had worked 2 innings the day before in the 15-inning game. And I have to say, Ronnie, I don't know whether you agree with this, but the change in demeanor and performance by Bobby Parnell might go hand in hand. Might not have gotten quite as angry in years past, or at least not as publicly angry.
I agreed. I like to see that. A little fire. He wants the ball.
2-2 from Hefner, and he fouls it back. Well, Parnell certainly was a minor player in the game last night, but he was dominant in his own right when he came in the 10th inning.
You know, I don't know how Bobby's season's going to go. None of us do, but I'll tell you, he's pitching with such confidence. There's none of that wanting to throw the ball 100 miles an hour. It's wanting to throw the ball where he wants to throw it, and that's the big switch.
Hefner would love a double play in this spot. Green keeping the at bat alive. Mets all of a sudden on that last road trip became a double play turning machine. They had 5 of them in that 15-inning game a week ago Monday and wound up turning 9 double plays in the first 4 games of the road trip.
Good news about double plays means that you're getting real simpatico between your infielders. Bad news about double plays means you got a lot of people on the bases.
Well, the flip side of that for the Mets pitching staff in particular, as Green fouls that off his leg, is here you've got a staff that has Matt Harvey, one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball, and yet the Mets are right at the bottom of the National League in striking people out. So you know the ball's going to be put in play more often than not. So that gives you more double play chances in that fashion.
And maybe keeps your infielders on their toes.
Of course, what it also means is that you need better defense to be able to survive that lack of strikeouts, and sometimes that's been hard to come by. Long turn at bat for Green, and it goes down on the slider. Second strikeout in the inning for Jeremy Hefner.
Well, both on sliders for Hefner. This is a pitch that he worked on all winter, brought it to spring training, and has started to become really the strength. Right on the seams of that baseball and turns it over.
The numbers for Hefner so far this year in terms of what he's given up on his breaking balls, his curveball and slider, versus what he's given up on his fastball and changeup are startling. Nobody is getting hits against his curveball and his slider. There's Flowers, who was 0 for 3 last night. And you see the stark contrast coming into the night. Flowers got off to a good start in the home run department, hit 4 early, but he's in a 3 for 31 skid now. Jake Peavy, pretty good hitting pitcher, waiting on deck. Just to expand on that note about strikeouts, Matt Harvey has 58 strikeouts. Hefner, Neese, and G combined have 59. And so you've got one guy who's striking out the world, and the rest of the staff. Neese is kind of an aberration in that his strikeouts are way down this year, but you don't think of the other guys as being strikeout pitchers.
And you also have to include the bullpen that doesn't strike out a lot of people.
Hefner up at the count 0-2. Wise takes off. Flowers pops it up. Tejada retreats to call. And that retires the side. A hit and 1 left. On to the bottom of the second. Lucas Duda to lead off. Mets down 1-0. before the Mets-Pirates game at 1:10 p.m. Your game ticket includes a Mother's Day brunch and Mets t-shirt. And oh, by the way, Matt Harvey's pitching Sunday. Buy your tickets at Mets.com/momsbrunch. Lucas Duda leads off the home second inning. Lucas 0 for 4 last night, hitting at .239 for the year, just 2 for his last 16. And Jake Peavy pours in a fastball. Let's see, there have been 12 batters so far in this game. First pitch strikes to all 12. Hefner and Peavy. Swing the bat, boys. Taken high by Duda, 1-1. John Buck on deck, then Mike Baxter here in the second. With all the attention paid to Matt Harvey last night and how dominant he was, lost in the shuffle the performance last night by Hector Santiago, the youngster from Newark, who was nearly as good.
Not lost on us. He was fun to watch. The way he mixed up his pitches, his competitive fire. It was he's going to have a good season.
Duda fouls it off. Well, they're going to have a kind of a crowd in their rotation pretty soon. If they want to keep Santiago in the rotation, and why not? He's pitched well in 2 straight starts now against Texas and against the Mets last night. But they've got John Danks coming back fairly soon. And with Peavy now okay in terms of his back, as Duda has to move his feet, all of a sudden they're going to have a bit of a crowd.
The only thing Hector didn't do right last night was know that he was supposed to hit at one point.
That's right. Well, that's understandable for an American.
That's right.
Peavy had to be scratched twice in the last week because of back spasms. Most recently on Monday in Kansas City, but he threw a bullpen session on that Monday before the game and pronounced himself fit to go, and seems to be having no ill effect so far.
Duda cranks one to deep right field. Forget that one. That is long gone. The Big Lebowski. Number 7 for Lucas Duda to tie the game at 1. Duda into the Pepsi porch to tie the game.
Well, Lucas was able to work that count. The 2-2 pitch from Peavy was close. Peavy did not get the call. So in 3-2, you talk about he does not like to walk people. Came right after Duda, and he paid for it. Just a high fastball challenges him out over the plate. He was trying to come inside, and Duda covered it.
7th home run allowed by Peavy this year in 33 innings. That's right about where we've worked in the past. Buck grounds one to short, and Ramirez throws him out. That's the first out of the inning. So Duda now with 7 home runs, second on the club behind Buck's 10. And here's Mike Baxter, who sent everybody home happy last night with his walk-off pinch hit single. Off to another extraordinary start as a pinch hitter this year. Not so much overall.
If you have a no-hitter or a perfect game working, you want Mike Baxter in the game at some point.
I said to him today, you know, you're always around for those big pitching performances. At this time, though, you're in one piece. He laughed.
I heard the call by Josh Lewin when I was driving home on the radio side, and he called it the Whitestone walk-off.
There you go. Ike Davis waiting on deck. Ike had a big part in that 10th inning as well, drawing the leadoff walk and scoring the winning run. As Baxter takes a strike. By the way, we talked last night during the 10th inning about Ike Davis getting on base and speculated that Terry Collins might use a pinch runner in that spot, particularly when Ike got to second base representing the winning run. And I think that the residual effects of last week's 15-inning game played on Terry Collins' mind, because he said that he was really afraid of running out of players. You know, he needed to save Justin Turner to pinch hit. That left him with Marlon Byrd, who could have pinch run in that spot. And he said he considered it, but he said, you know, we've had too many times this year where we've been out of players too quickly. So that was his mindset in not pinch running for Davis.
And when you have two catchers, it almost takes one person off your bench because you can't play record.
And you know, when you have outfielders like the Mets have, who have limited roles, mostly players who you're only going to platoon, he said we do a lot of pinch hitting for our outfielders, which they did last night. I mean, that's how Valdespin got in the game batting for Andrew Brown. 2-2 now to Baxter. So it really limits your flexibility as a National League manager when you have to not only pinch hit for your pitcher, but also pinch hit for some of your position players. Reminds me back in the 70s when was it Dick Williams managing the Oakland A's. He had 4 second basemen and he'd pinch hit for them.
That's right.
Like every time up. Dick Green.
Andrews. Mike Andrews.
Yeah. Mike Andrews, of course, who famously got fired during the 1973 World Series.
And rehired.
And they got a standing ovation at Shea. Baxter pulls one just foul. But of course, that was back in the days when teams routinely carried 10 pitchers. And so with a 25-man roster, you had a 7-man bench.
Yeah. Well, we would leave routinely in spring training because you wouldn't need the 5th starter for, you know, the first 2 weeks or so. Routinely leave with 9 pitchers and add that 10th in the middle of April.
Just off the plate to Baxter, 3-2. You know, we were having a discussion the other day about the DH and whether the 2 leagues would go to 1 rule, and there's been a lot of speculation that someday down the road the National League might be forced to adopt the DH as that ball goes to the backstop and Baxter's aboard. So a rare walk by Peavy and Baxter's aboard with 1 out.
Not even close. This ball's supposed to be outside. He tugs on it on the inside corner, almost hits Baxter.
Anyway, the speculation has been that if the 2 leagues went to 1 rule, that it would be with the DH. My suggestion is that they eliminate the DH, and because the Players Association wouldn't like losing that high-priced player, add 2 players to the roster.
There you go.
Now you give managers more flexibility on the bench in the era of 12-man pitching staffs. Now you have a 7-man bench again, like you did in the old days when teams carried 10 pitchers.
I bet you the union would do a study on the economics of what a DH would make compared to.
Davis hits it deep to center. Wise going back near the wall, and he makes the catch. All the way around second. Baxter has to try to find his way back, and the ball gets away from Konerko, and Baxter didn't realize it. He'll stay at first base. What a play by Dwayne Wise. Maybe not quite as heroic as the one he made in Mark Burley's perfect game, but he had to go an enormous distance to get this ball.
Well, you mentioned this last night, Gary. He plays so shallow, and you can only play shallow if you can go back on the ball like Wise did. Did a nice job of getting the ball to Ramirez, but a bad throw here, and it didn't really matter that it got by the catcher because Baxter didn't have anything left, I'm sure, to get to second base.
He needed an oxygen tank when he got to first base.
Well, reminds me when I was a kid, my father used to always tell me to watch Paul Blair play center field because he used to play so shallow and was able to go back on the ball. And nice job by Wise.
Ronnie, I'm not sure that I've ever seen a player go as far past second on a play like that as Baxter did and get back safely. I mean, he was halfway to third base.
And I think rightfully so. I think it was the right play for Baxter.
Well, who expected Wise to catch that ball? Here's Tejada, and he bounces one foul. Rubin 1 for 4 last night, hitting a .243 for the year. Well, you remember the catch that Wise made in the Burley perfect game where he hit the wall, the ball popped out of his glove, and he grabbed it with his bare hand. That was, considering the circumstances, one of the great catches of all time.
0-9 in Tampa Bay. You can see that he's trying to loosen up a little. He probably jarred his back when he went up against the fence. You know, we don't see some of these teams, of course. Never seen this team at Citi Field. But one of the things you realize is sometimes you see a player on another team and you don't realize, boy, he's a pretty good player, you know?
Watch his back jar up against the wall. That's what he's trying to shake off those cobwebs.
Well, Wise has bounced around a lot the last few years. But what's interesting to me is that a couple of teams, both Toronto and the White Sox, have brought him back for second tours of duty.
Well, the people I know around Dwayne have said that he's one of those guys you love having on the club, great clubhouse guy.
Spent some time with the Yankees a couple of years ago. Tejada hitting 8th in the order. Jeremy Hefner waiting on deck. By the way, our crack research staff has gone to work. 1972 Oakland A's. This is pre-DH now.
Yeah.
Their 4 second basemen. This is pre-Mike Andrews. Dick Green, Ted Kubiak, Tim Cullen, and Larry Brown.
Oh, wow.
And Dick Williams would bat for them every time up. Toward the middle of the diamond, but there's Ramirez to make the flip and get the force play to end the inning. Mets get even though. Lucas Duda parking one up in the Pepsi porch for his 7th home run of the year. Duda's shot matching the one hit by De Aza. Each left fielder is homered, and it's 1-1 after 2 at Citi Field.
Purely pitch game, that was probably the best one I've ever had.
Juan Francisco a grand slam. I guess his ankle's better as the Braves beat the Reds 7-2. Felix Hernandez 8 terrific innings as the Mariners beat the Pirates 2-1. And Carlos Beltran 2 RBIs. John Jay had the game winner in the 8th. Cardinals beat the Cubs again 5-4. Actually, they lost yesterday. Got beat by Travis Wood last night. So rare when the Cubs win these days. Jake Peavy leading off in the 3rd inning. Peavy, his last 3 years in the National League, hit .221, which is a pretty good 3-year span for a pitcher.
Yeah, no, he can really hit. He's got a couple of home runs in his career. Lots of doubles, lots of RBI. Real threat.
Tops one down to 3rd, and David Wright has the easy play. One away. You know, I'm thinking about Peavy coming back from back spasms. As you look at him between innings, he was awfully upset with his performance in that last inning.
Well, on the mound, he was kicking at the dirt, letting out a few epithets, and here still going at it on the bench. He's a fiery competitor.
and tough as nails. I remember back in 05, he was with the Padres, and they won the division, clinched it the last couple of days of the season as Alejandro De Aza fouls one off. And then he pitched game 1 of the division series against the Cardinals that year at Petco Park, and he got lit up. And it turned out that Peavy had broken 2 ribs in the postgame celebration after the Padres clinched the division, and he'd gone out and pitched with the broken ribs. Tough play for Wright with the bare hand, and he can't quite get De Aza, who, after hitting a home run his first time up, has a bunt single in his second.
Well, it doesn't get much better than this. Hit a home run in your first at bat, and the element of surprise, laying down this bunt, and got that great speed. Beats it out easily.
Couldn't have rolled it out there much better. David did everything he could. Didn't get the best grip.
Well, David got just maybe one finger on that grip there for a while.
So 1 out and 1 on. De Aza has 4 stolen bases, so Hefner must be wary of him as he faces Alexei Ramirez. There isn't much that Ramirez won't swing at.
Well, I was looking at it before the game, Gary. Last year, he had 593 at bats. He walked 16 times. That's hard to do.
Well, he already has 5 walks this year, so he's way ahead of last year's pace. He's on a pace for a good 25 or so. Flies this one down the right field side, and that'll go out of play.
The end result is his on-base percentage is usually just a little north of his average.
Well, what you like about Ramirez is we've already seen the athleticism in the field, and he hits home runs. And well, I guess everybody on the White Sox hits home runs. The ballpark they play in, U.S. Cellular Field, where the Mets will visit later this year, one of the best underrated hitters ballparks in baseball.
Ball jumps out of there.
People talk about Coors Field, they talk about Texas, Philly, Cincinnati, but U.S. Cellular year after year produces a greater differential home runs between White Sox home games and road games than any park. Murphy tries to make the play, throwing behind De Aza, but he's able to dive back in. Just a trickler off the bat of Ramirez, and he winds up with an infield hit. So a bunt hit, and now a bleeder just past the reach of Ike Davis.
So Elias has just sent us the stat. That's the softest ball ever hit. That was a single. But nice try by Murph to throw behind De Aza. Right off the end of the bat, just out of the reach of Ike Davis. And Murph knew he had no play at first base. Good play by Tejada to keep that ball in the infield.
So 2 aboard and 1 out. And now Alex Rios, the number 3 hitter, who grounded out to short his first time up. And Hefner misses inside with the fastball. And Rios cracks one to right center. That's in for a base hit. That'll bring home De Aza as it's cut off deep by Valdespin. The throw going to second, and in it second with a double and an RBI is Alex Rios, and it's 2-1 White Sox. So Rios drives in his 16th run of the year.
Rios was so good when he first came up with Toronto, then had some forgettable years. But this is a guy coming off a year last year that had 70 extra base hits, a 20-20 guy with home runs and stolen bases. And Hefner trying to get the sinking fastball in, but he turned it around.
So the White Sox back in front 2-1. Now 2 in scoring position for Connor Gillespie, who grounded out to second base his first trip. Mets playing the infield back, willing to concede another run on a ground ball. And Gillespie watches the fastball low, so Hefner, who was pouring in the first pitch, strikes earlier. Now missing with his last 2. Ramirez at third, Rios at second, and 1 out.
ball. Konerko waiting on deck. Gillespie takes up an in. 2 balls and a strike. Jeremy Hefner making his 6th start of the year. Still looking for his first win despite pitching so well in his last 2 starts. And now finds himself behind and in a tough spot here in the 3rd inning. Two-1 to Gillespie. Fastball away, and now Hefner behind 3-1. First time Jeremy's run a 3-ball count tonight. It was one of the thrilling pieces of Matt Harvey's game last night. Going to the 9th inning, he had run 1 3-ball count the entire game.
Now, if you're Jeremy here, you don't have to give in. I know Konerko is one of the great right-handed hitters, but you don't have to give in here. You got a base open, and Konerko, a very slow base runner.
And Gillespie lofts one into shallow center. Going out is Tejada. He can't get there, and it lands for a base hit. Ramirez is in. Rios right behind him. Pulling in at second base with a 2-run double is Connor Gillespie, and the White Sox lead 4-1. A pop fly double by Gillespie brings home 2 runs.
Well, a bunt base hit by De Aza. Rios, Ramirez with a soft hit to right field, or the second baseman Murphy, and here right off the end of the bat. Good pitch by Hefner, but it doesn't work out. Watch Tejada kind of kicks the ball forward. That allows the back runner to score.
And nobody covering second base, so Valdespin had nobody to throw to, and Gillespie was able to pull in at second.
Ball below the knees on the outside corner. Fortunate there for the White Sox.
That's going to be a tough call for a first baseman, because often you'll have the first baseman trail the hitter to second base for a play down there, but Ike also has to be ready to be the cutoff man at the mound.
Well, I think that's the read. The read is your cutoff man first, Gary, and then once you realize that Rios is going to score, then you want to proceed to try to cover. Once this ball goes up, Ike's got to hustle into the mound to be the cutoff guy, because you see Rios is not even at third base, but once Tejada kicked it, then he has to make the read to get to second, although I don't think they'd have a play there either.
So now 3 runs home in the inning. Konerko struck out his first time up, and he hits one out to right center field. Valdespin gets over. Tagging at second is Gillespie, and he'll move over after the catch. So Konerko flies out for the second out. Gillespie now at third with 2 away. And now Dwayne Wise, who singled to left in his only at bat and saved Jake Peavy a whole lot of grief by making a great catch against the center field fence in the last half inning.
The time to put him away. 0-2 count. Got to get this hitter here with 2 outs. Don't give him a gift run.
Hefner's gotten ahead of him with a couple of changeups. And he misses high with a fastball, 1-2. Jeremy has had some big innings blow up on him this year. Here's the 1-2, and the breaking ball hit out to left center, and Valdespin ranging over and calling.
That retires the side, but not before the White Sox put up a soft 3-spot in the third. A bunt hit, an infield hit. Rios drives in a run with a double, and then Gillespie with a pop fly double to drive in 2 more. 4-1 Chicago.
Probably Johan's no-hitter last year was, maybe one of the most exciting, but certainly as far as just a purely pitch game, that was probably the best one I've ever had.
Well, I think for a lot of people who watched it last night, it immediately brought to mind some of the great games they've ever seen pitched. As Matt Harvey came within an eyelash of pitching a perfect game last night, struck out 12, didn't walk a batter, and had a lot of people starting to comb their memory banks.
I said last night as a broadcaster in this seat here that it bettered the game by Maine on that Saturday afternoon when he struck out 14 and allowed the hit to Paul Hoover. It bettered the game by Santana a year later on that Saturday when he pitched a complete game shutout on a bad knee. And it was a better pitch game than the Santana no-hitter. It was just that dominant a game. And it's got to hark back to your watching Seaver pitch in the day.
I was going to say it's hard to judge one particular game against another, but what I will say is, as Hefner strikes out looking, is that what it calls to mind is when I was a kid, I remember every time Seaver would go to the mound, you'd have the expectation, or at least the promise, that he might strike out 18, pitch a no-hitter. And you get that same feeling now when Matt Harvey takes the mound. And last night really brought to fruition a lot of the things that we've been seeing over his first now 17 big league starts.
Yeah, and the same thing would happen when Dwight would pitch. You'd have that same expectation. Because the Mets had never had a no-hitter, maybe it wasn't a no-hitter expectation, but you had an expectation that he's going to strike out in double figures every time.
It was Jordani Valdespin. Grounded out to short on a great play by Alexi Ramirez his first time up. And Peavy finds the inside corner. Well, you just don't see lines like that very often. And as we documented earlier, it's the first pitcher since 1900 who's ever had a line like that and not get a decision, which is just criminal.
Well, you could have a line like that. I had that in college and just got a loss. So.
That's right.
It was.
You had to keep going.
It was just. It was just outstanding. And I was thinking, what games do I remember Dwight pitched that were just so memorable? I remember the one against the Cubs.
The Keith
Moreland hit when he probably should have had a no-hitter. Ray threw that ball away.
Piazza makes the catch for the second out.
And there was a game in Dodger Stadium. It was right when Dwight was starting to make his mark and people were paying lots of attention. where somehow, some way, he had a shutout going to the ninth, and the Dodgers got the bases loaded. You know, a walk, kind of the inning that the Chicago White Sox had right there, and base loaded nobody out and struck out the next 3 guys on 11 pitches. It was the most amazing thing I ever saw.
Murphy lifts one out to right center. And easing over is Wise to put it away. So an easy inning for Peavy after being handed a 3-run lead. We go to the 4th at Citi Field, 4-1 White Sox. By Bob's Discount Furniture, proud to be the furniture store of the New York Mets. Tyler Green leads off in the 4th inning. 4-1 Chicago. Green struck out his first time up. And he bounces one foul. It'll be Green, Flowers, and Peavy, 7, 8, and 9 in the order against Jeremy Hefner, who after 2 straight brilliant outings has been touched for 4 runs and 6 hits in the first 3 innings tonight. And Green trying to bunt his way on, as De Aza did to spark the rally in the last inning. Not so good for Green. But got hit on the hand as he was trying to bunt. It's a David Cone play.
It's not, I wouldn't recommend it.
Sorry, Coney. There are some things that people are remembered for, as Green strikes out for the second time, that they prefer not to be remembered for.
Let me go. That was the first year that he was with the ball club, and he's got, I don't know, when you shake hands with David, he's got some fingers that go all different directions.
There's Tyler Flowers. You know, we were talking about some of the greatest games that Mets have pitched, and somebody was asking me today about David Cone's 19 strikeout game against the Phillies on the last day of the season in 1991. And to me, that was not his greatest performance by any means. First of all, he was facing a minor league lineup that day. Last day of the season, people tend to check out early when it's 2 non-competitive teams, which the Mets and Phillies were that year. To me, the greatest game that I saw him pitch, and obviously I only got here in '89, so I didn't see his great year in '88 firsthand,
but he had a game against the Astros where he had a no-hitter broken up in the 8th by a little dribbler by Benny DiStefano. That game, he was untouchable.
Yeah. Well, much like Jake Peavy at his best, David had a slider that was unhittable at times.
But it also seemed as though David made stuff up as he was going along.
Yeah, oh yeah. You didn't know how many arm angles. You know, asked Joe Girardi was the favorite guy for him to catch. He said it was David Cone. He just never knew what he was going to do.
Flowers goes down on strikes, so back-to-back strikeouts for Hefner to start the 4th. 2 out and nobody on. Let's look at your Mets' upcoming schedule presented by New York Community Bank. You can listen to all Mets games on Sports Radio 66 and Sports Radio 101.9 FM WFAN. Clint Hurdle brings his Pirates to town tomorrow night for the first of 4. Pirates got Felixed today by the Mariners 2-1. Jake Peavy slaps one on the ground to Murphy at second base, and so Hefner has himself a nice easy inning. 2 strikeouts and a ground ball against the bottom part of the order. 4-1 Chicago in the 4th. Ballpark tonight. He was the center of media attention. Wanted to know how he was feeling the next day after his start and how he handled things after a great game like that.
So as of
9 o'clock first pitcher last 24 hours. I've been like that since I was in high school. A good start, a bad start. I can be mad, I can be happy, but when it's time to throw my bullpen, it's time to move on to the next start.
So he gives himself 24 hours to celebrate, 24 hours to grieve, 24 hours to feel so-so, depending on how things go.
Well, I would like to say I'm one of those people that never read the newspapers. If I pitch well, I'm reading every newspaper. If I didn't pitch well, didn't read any of them. You know, you just didn't want that bad news.
Now, I wonder how you would handle things today now that you have much more than newspapers to avoid. Would you be avoiding Twitter too?
I guess. Yeah, I guess you would. Stay off the sports part of it.
David Wright leads off the home 4th against Jake Peavy, who runs one inside. It's tough these days, you know, to be a player and try to ignore the noise because the noise now is everywhere.
And it doesn't matter if you're in New York or Kansas City, right?
Well, not as much as it used to.
Yeah, right.
Coors Light Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. I mentioned this earlier. Since 1900, no player has had a game like Matt Harvey and had no decision until Matt Harvey.
Now, I think you and I are the same. I follow a few people on Twitter that I like to read, but I certainly am not on Twitter. And I know that I would not have been if it had been around when I was a player.
Well, you and I are lurkers.
Yeah, lurkers.
We're not contributors.
But lurking.
2-2 from PV, and Wright takes the slider outside. 3-2. Lucas Duda, who homered his first time up, is on deck. John Buck behind him as the Mets try to fight back against PV. He's pitching for the first time in 12 days. And the curveball missed inside, ball 4. So PV unleashing a different kind of a weapon. And he walks right, leading off in the 4th. Second walk for PV, who would walk only 6 combined in his first 5 starts. So a leadoff base runner for the Mets, and now Duda, who parked one up in the Pepsi porch his first time up on a 3-2 pitch, his 7th of the year. 7 home runs, just 11 runs batted in for Lucas.
Well, almost up in his eyes.
Front left-hand hitters were low ball hitters.
Well, you get to a 3-2 count, you can start that a little earlier, you know.
He's tied a knot on that slider, and it's 1-1. Well, unless you're facing Matt Harvey, who throws you a 3-2 changeup, and then you're a couple of days early.
This good slider here. There's nothing worse for a hitter than knowing the fastball's coming. The fastball comes, and you still can't hit it. And that's what happens with Harvey pitching.
That's a changeup for PV for a strike. 1-2. PV unveiling a couple of different weapons second time around the batting order. Right at first and nobody out, and Duda takes strike 3 call. Fastball dented the inside corner. 3rd strikeout for PV.
Well, when he's on, he has the ability to start that ball inside and bring it back over the plate. You'll see where that finishes. Almost middle. Really gets Lucas to freeze. The backside goes out, and the ball catches a good part of that inside corner.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now John Buck, who grounded out on the first pitch he saw in the 2nd inning. Buck has had 7 career at-bats against PV, 3 for 7 with 2 home runs. And he takes a fastball strike. It's going to be interesting to see as this season goes along whether John Buck can keep up the pace that he's on in terms of his playing time. He's been out there virtually every day.
And I think they go hand in hand, as you can see. Batters face first pitch strikes, just outstanding. And I think all of this play also, Gary, although they've had a lot of off days, has cut into maybe his efficiency at the plate.
0 for his last 11 right now. Well, I think the plan all along was to play Buck extensively early, and then eventually he would have his playing time taper off when Travis d'Arnaud came up. But now with d'Arnaud still hurt and not playing, it's hard to know when that might happen. So I don't know what plan B is.
Well, you can envision at least d'Arnaud, when he comes back, spending almost the entire year in AAA now, because he needs some at-bats, needs to play. He missed almost all of last season.
Well, I mean, Buck's on a pace to start 140 games. I don't think that's going to happen. Makes a big rip, and it's 2-2. Because he's just going to burn out if you play him that much. He's not a, he's not a kid.
Well, he's been reluctant.
I love the production you're getting right now.
Well, Terry's been reluctant to play Anthony Recker a lot so far.
That's one of the reasons why the Mets made the deal for d'Arnaud. Catching is the most difficult commodity to develop in the game. It's just, you look around the game and you look at other teams' prospect lists, and catchers are scarce.
Well, when they went and got Roy Halladay, Philadelphia Phillies, the one player they did not want to give up was Travis d'Arnaud.
Now the 2-2 to Buck, and he fouls off the slider. By the way, speaking of Halladay, news today that he's going to undergo surgery for a frayed labrum and rotator cuff. That sounds like one of those things that's going to be awfully hard for him to come back from.
Well, I think considering the innings he's pitched and the age, no one outworks Roy, so he will take a better shot than most at coming back.
One on and one out, and Buck takes it wide, and a full count to John. He may not be at his sharpest tonight after not pitching in 12 days. Already has run his 4th full count of the game. See if Wright will be put in motion here with 3 and 2 and 1 out. Not going, and Buck hits a ground ball. Great diving play by Ramirez, and the turn at second by Green, and they get the double play. Now Wright was not in motion, and that enabled Ramirez to make a terrific stop, and then had a place to go to get the 6-4-3 double play, and that ends the inning. Second tremendous play by Ramirez tonight to help out Peavy and the White Sox.
With John Buck at the plate, and of course Travis d'Arnaud coming back from that injury. But after d'Arnaud, what's in the organization? Well, the second best catching prospect that the Mets have is a guy by the name of Kevin Plawecki. He is tearing up the South Atlantic League. This is a guy they took in the first round last year, 35th overall out of Purdue. So he's a college kid, he's smart, and he is an offensive guy, as evidenced by the numbers he's putting up this year. Leads the South Atlantic League in hitting with a 400 average, but in only 110 at bats, 17 doubles. He's got the home runs to prove for it as well. This is a guy, talking to baseball people, that he is clearly going to be an offensive catcher. Some feel he could be a 5-hitter, but a 5, 6, 7 hitter with some production and some home run ability. Now, of course, he's in low A ball, so he is a way away, but a guy you would have to think, if this pace guys, he's going to be up to St. Lucie real soon. As far as his defense, there's a base hit off of Hefner. Diaz is having himself a night. He's 3 for 3. Defensively, very mature as far as receiving, calling the game. What he's got to work on, though, is some parts of that defensive catching, the throwing, things like that. projected out to be, kind of an average defensive catcher, but a good game caller. But if he hits the way he's hitting right now, who cares what he's doing defensively? Let's go up to you guys.
Yeah, and Kevin, I would have to think as a college catcher that has to be the reason why he's still in low A ball, because normally with college position players, you move them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, they move rapidly, and college pitchers move rapidly also. If your skills are behind defensively, then you're going to have to go down to single A and work on those things. But he's obviously up to the task as far as hitting. I mean, you don't find a lot of offensive catchers anymore.
Well, the Mets certainly think that they have one in Travis d'Arnaud. I mean, everybody has raved about his bat. We saw it in spring training. Deaza is 3 for 3 tonight, leads at first as Ramirez fouls it off.
But obviously he's a little way away. But imagine if you could have two catchers that could provide that kind of offense. And, guys, I guess my question would be, okay, there's a feeling that certainly very shortly he could be up to St. Lucie. But why not challenge him? Why not throw him up to Double-A? See what he can do. Go up and catch Montero and Binghamton and see how he does there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question, Kevin. I think that the way he's playing now, he's playing himself out of Single-A, and he will be in Double-A very quickly.
Yeah, the Mets don't push players at before midseason very often. They'll usually wait half a year to promote guys within the minor league system. Some guys force your hand earlier than that, and
sometimes injuries.
Be that guy, but unless you have eyeballs on this kid and see what he's doing defensively, and I think that's probably the most important piece. It's hard to know exactly where he fits, and but I do know this. As we were talking about before, there is such a dearth of catching prospects. As Deaza takes off, Buck from his knees throws it into center field, and Deaza takes off for third and makes it safely. Stolen base and an error on Buck. 5th stolen base of the year for Deaza.
Well, Deaza's really filling up the stat sheet, isn't he? Interesting that Buck chose a throw from his knees. That's a pitch that he could have got up on. The problem with Murph there is Murph was a little late to the bag. When you're late to the bag, what happens? You can't make an adjustment to a bad throw, and that's why that ball went into center field.
We've seen Buck throw successfully from his knees, but he never got the good arm angle that time.
I think you don't want to fall into the habit of throwing from your knees, and I think that's what happened to John there.
So the infield comes in. Mets already down 4-1. And it's slapped down to first. Ike checks the runner and slaps the tag on Ramirez for the first out of the inning. So 1 out for Hefner in the 5th. Deaza still at third. Alex Rios coming up. I'm just saying about with the dearth of catching prospects, those guys, if you have multiple catchers high in your farm system, become very important potential trading chips. You think about areas of strength in the Mets farm system as they try to build a future champion here. You've got a lot of pitching depth, and certainly you try to identify the guys who are going to help you at the major league level, and maybe identify the guys who can help you get the outfielder you need. That can also be true if you have an extra catching prospect. And all those things go into the mixer as Sandy Alderson and company try and figure out how to move forward with this franchise over the next few years. Rios drove a double to right center to get a run home, and he tries to hold on that slider and went around 1-2.
Talking about those chips, I was to see the slider from Hefner. It's been the best pitch he's had all night long. I was in Buck Showalter's office, and he has the depth chart of all the teams and the guys' birth dates, their ages, and all the chips that they will maybe need later in the season.
Robert Carson up in the Mets bullpen. 1-2 to Rios, and he tried to hold again, and this time was successful. It's 2-2. Well, I guess Buck fancies himself a little more than just a manager.
Yes, I think he does.
Connor Gillespie on deck. He's got a reputation for being a hands-on guy.
You know what, though, you can't outwork him, and he's into it.
Had a great season last year, and they're off to a great start again this year. 2-2, and he misses inside. I mean, for all of what the Red Sox have accomplished already this year, the Orioles are only a game behind them.
Right. And this kid at third base for them, Manny Machado, is going to be a huge star.
It's going to be a shortstop eventually. 3-2 from Hefner, and he got him. Strikes out Alex Rios. So after the White Sox had a runner at third and nobody out, Hefner gets a weak ground ball and now a big strikeout.
Again, that good slider that has been his strength so far, 2/3 of the way through this inning.
5 strikeouts now for Hefner. So Rios retired, and now here's Gillespie, who hit a pop fly double to drive in 2 runs in the third. Just his 6th and 7th runs batted in. Now the infield can drop back with 2 out. And Gillespie lifts one out to left. On comes Duda. Side retired. Nice job by Hefner to get himself out of trouble in the 5th. Halfway through, Mets down 4-1. Piazza provided the keynote tonight with a home run and then started the 3-run rally with a bunt single. So he's been right in the middle of everything for the White Sox. Meanwhile, Jake Peavy's allowed just 1 hit. That was a home run by Lucas Duda in the 2nd. Mike Baxter leads off in the home 5th and takes a strike from Peavy, who got a big double play on one of 2 outstanding plays by his shortstop Alexi Ramirez to end the 4th. Jake Peavy had a losing record last year for a winning team, but he had a tremendous comeback season last year after he had lat surgery in the middle of the 2010 season and didn't really get back to form until last year. But when he's on, he does what he's doing tonight.
He's just so aggressive. He's just one of those guys that's going to give up a hit here or there, but he's just so aggressive. It's almost like he just wants to impart his will on the hitter. That's his career record there.
Jake Peavy, who grew up in Mobile, Alabama, grew up a big Atlanta Braves fan. Scott Atchison up in the Mets bullpen. Peavy said his family 4 or 5 times drove the 4 hours from Mobile up to Atlanta. Marlon Byrd with a bat in his hand. And he would bring a camera with him. This was back in the mid-90s when the Braves were winning every year and had the big 3 starting pitchers. And Peavy would go down to the bullpen to watch the pitchers warm up, and he'd take photographs.
Really?
Smoltz and Maddox and Glavine. He said he's got a great big blow-up shot of Glavine with his 90s mullet. Baxter hits one in the air to deep right, but room for Rios in front of the warning track. 1 out. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. I think most people who got stuck in the mullet era have regrets.
Oh, I have one big time. You know what happened to me in '86 is that when it got to playoff time, I know the hockey players growing the beard, and you just couldn't cut your hair because things were working right, superstitious. So I end up with some very interesting pictures during that season.
Ike hit one a ton his first time up to the center field fence. Well, it still exists.
DuckTales.
Ike had to feel good about his last turn at bat last night when he drew the leadoff walk in the 10th. And then has to feel pretty good about his first at bat tonight.
Gary, what happens is that when you're not performing well, you're just trying to do something positive to help the team. Good follow for that tough backdoor slider. And it's got to feel good to start the inning, not be pinch run for, and score the winning run. It's just you just want to do something positive to help the team win.
Well, right now, I mean, Ike's just trying to keep himself in the lineup. As he goes down swinging on the pitch in the dirt, and Flowers makes the toss. I mean, Terry started him last night against the left-hander, and the Mets are facing lefties the next 2 nights in Jeff Locke and Wandy Rodriguez. And so, at this point, especially after he got pinch hit for in Atlanta against a lefty, he's got to convince his manager that he deserves to be in the lineup every day.
Yeah, it's almost like a day-to-day basis, isn't it, Gary? It's like how did he play last night? Left-hander pitching. Okay, you know what? He's not going to make the lineup today.
Well, guys, Terry Collins told me the other day that he wants Ike to play this week facing all those lefties. He said this is a pretty important week, and I followed up and I said, well, does that mean that he's in danger of becoming a platoon-type player? He's like, I don't want to go there right now, but Andrew Brown took ground balls at first base today. We know Justin Turner plays over there, too, so I think it's a pretty big week for him.
You hate to put such importance on it, but Ike is just, if you're going to have a successful team, you're going to win some games, he's got to play great.
We've talked a lot during this early season about his struggles last year early in the season, but you know what the difference was?
They were winning. Yeah.
So they were able to carry Ike and get what they could out of him defensively. Matt Harvey still in that 24-hour period, by the way. 1-2 to Tejada. That's why he's still smiling. But you know what I mean? I mean, if the team were 6-7 games over 500 right now, you'd say, okay, we can wait for Ike to find it. But here we are now in the second week in May, and he hasn't quite gotten there yet. Tejada grounds one down to third, and Gillespie throws him out. 1-2-3 inning for Jake Peavy. 5 in the books now at Citi Field. 4-1 Chicago. Sox. Konerko has struck out and flied out 0 for 2. Paul Konerko in his 15th year with the White Sox. He was originally drafted by the Dodgers, a first-round pick out of high school in Arizona. Made his debut with LA, and then shortly thereafter was traded to Cincinnati in a deal that brought the Dodgers the reliever Jeff Shaw. And then after that season was over, was traded from the Reds to the White Sox in a deal for Mike Cameron. Wow. Who would later play for the Mets.
He's been a mainstay ever since. 426 home runs. Put that into perspective. That ties him with Billy Williams.
Can't put this one on the board. That's the first down. Well, we were talking about Ike Davis and Terry Collins' plans for him. Kevin caught up with Terry before yesterday's game, before Davis faced Hector Santiago.
You know, one of the things we have to start to do is find out about some of these young guys. Are they ready to play here? As we get into the middle of the season, as we're starting to move down the road, I want to get more concrete in who we're playing. And that's why Ike's in there tonight. You know what? Hey, look, this guy's, you know, we have, of our next 4 days, next 5 days, we got 4 lefties. Ike Davis, if he's going to do what he did last year, he's going to have to start hitting lefties. So if he's not, we got to find out, and we got to find out now.
And the question is, if he doesn't have a good week, then what happens? Does he become a platoon player, or does it become a Las Vegas 51 for a while?
Yeah, it's 2 options there, the platoon or go find your stroke.
Wise pops one up into shallow center, and Valdespin jogs under it. 2 out. And last year, the Mets sent Lucas Duda down. They opted not to send Ike Davis down, in part because they felt as though they could at least get something defensively out of Ike, and then he rewarded them by turning it around right about the middle of June and having a terrific year the rest of the way.
This game has been littered, though, with many seasons of, he'll turn it around. He'll turn it around. The next thing you know, it's August.
Tyler Green's been up twice, struck out both times. Jeremy Hefner sailing through the middle innings, and this is the way his year has gone. As you look at the comparisons last year, first and second half for Davis, he drove in a lot of runs in the first half because when he hit home runs in the first half, they were all 3-run homers. But all the other numbers, stark contrast.
So how did teammates handle Ike and try and get him through this slump? I talked to John Buck in Atlanta, and he said, I don't talk about the hitting with him. I just tell him how important he is defensively for this team because he saves us a lot of runs over there, and I make sure he knows that.
Got a chance to save one here, but it lands along the line for a base hit. Green heads for second. Murphy's throw comes up too late. And it's a double for Tyler Green.
I mean, some of these hits off Hefner, we've had a couple of dunk in here. This ball by Tyler Green just served over the head of Ike Davis, and by the time Baxter gets to it, he's got a soft double.
So a 2-out double for Green, his first double of the year. And now Tyler Flowers is 0 for 2, and the Mets will intentionally walk him and get Peavy to the plate. This will be the first walk of the night for Hefner. We were talking about Hefner and his success in the middle innings. He's had trouble the first 3 innings of games, but he has not allowed a run yet this year in the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th inning. Trying to keep that intact here in the 6th tonight.
Well, he's a breaking ball pitcher. Obviously, maybe does not get the complete feel of that slider until he's been out there a little bit.
So Flowers gets the intentional pass. Rob Carson staying busy in the bullpen. But Hefner will stay in to try and get the opposing pitcher out with 2 out and 2 on.
As we mentioned before, not an automatic with Jake Peavy, who is a good hitting pitcher.
A couple of ground outs tonight, 0 for 4 this year. Of course, it's been a while since he has hit regularly, going back to his last year with the Padres in 2009. So a big spot for Hefner, trying to keep his team in the game now. When's the last time a Met pitcher walked the batter before that intentional walk?
That's right. Wow. 10 innings last night.
8th inning Sunday in Atlanta. Bob Carson walked Justin Upton. That was the last time before that intentional walk. Good slider by Hefner, and he's quickly ahead on Peavy 0-2. After seeing about enough of that guy. And Peavy lines one to Davis, and that ends the inning. A soft double, an intentional walk, and 2 men left. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 6th, down 4-1. NY Play Bowl Award helped the Copeg Little League recover from the storm with a $5,000 grant. If you're in a league from the tri-state area in need of assistance, apply for the SNY Play Bowl Award presented by New York Community Bank at facebook.com/SNY. Jeremy Hefner has turned in 6 innings. Probably deserves better than to trail 4-1. He had a 3-run inning against him in which there was only 1 ball hit hard. Nonetheless, he's out of the game after 6, and Marlon Byrd will bat for him in the bottom of the 6th against Jake Peavy, who's given up just 1 hit. A Lucas Duda home run leading off the 2nd. Byrd is 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter this year. Well, the last one was a head scratcher for Hefner. This one, more of the conventional variety. Gave up a leadoff home run tonight, and then that 3-run third. And so far, that's been enough for Jake Peavy.
Well, I think he described it aptly. You know, he did not have a lot of balls hit hard in that inning, but the crooked number has hurt him so far this year.
Mets do not have a left-handed bat on the bench tonight. Terry Collins put every available left-hand bat into the lineup, so nothing but right-handed bats on the bench. Scott Atchison getting ready to pitch the 7th for New York. Two and 2 to Byrd with Valdespin and Murphy to follow for the Mets in the 6th. Mets were held to 1 run and 5 hits in 10 innings last night, and held to 1 run and 1 hit so far tonight.
As good as it gets, right? 15 out of 18. Luckily, Peavy's not pitching against the to see Valdespin on deck. The Toronto Blue Jays, or their announcers, would be all over his hat. He's got rosin all over his cap.
You know, we haven't talked about that. Perhaps that's a subject we should delve into, the Clay Buchholz, Jack Morris affair. Breaking ball low 3-2. If you missed it last week, the Red Sox starter Buchholz was seen with a white substance on his sleeve, or in his arm actually, and was seen reaching to his arm and getting some of that white substance on his hand. Bird grounds one over the bag. That's a fair ball down the line. Hits off the jutting stands, and Bird races for second. He's in standing with a pinch in double. So the Mets have just their second hit of the night.
Well, nice job by Marlin to keep this ball fair. It's supposed to be outside. It's down the middle. And good call by Dan Iasone. You see that it lands foul once it gets past the bag, but went over the third base bag.
So the Mets have a leadoff base runner, Jordani Valdespin coming up. Anyway, the Toronto broadcast saw Jack Morris, the great pitcher who's working Toronto TV, said that Buchholz was cheating. Buchholz said it's just rosin, which is legal.
Yeah, what his mixture was is that he would have his arm wet and would take the rosin and kind of bang it up against his forearm to get a real sticky surface there, and that's where he would go to try to get some of that rosin. Unusual way to go get it. That's the thing that I think kind of startled Jack Morris. Usually what you do if you're a pitcher, if you have long sleeves especially, you keep one of your sleeves a little wet, usually the left one if you're a right-handed thrower, and then you get a little moisture on your hands and then you go to the rosin. That's how you get a little stickiness. A little awkward way of doing it by Buchholz.
Well, my question for you then, is there anything illegal about what Buchholz was doing?
I don't think there's anything illegal about it at all. Does it look funny? Absolutely. But every pitcher who's ever see, when it gets warm, you don't need the water because you're sweating so much. So the sweat and the rosin gives you that real tackiness that you need to, or when you want to have, to grip the baseball. Buchholz just does it in a very kind of awkward way.
Valdespin inside out, swung foul. So what do you make of Morris's vehemence, which he later backed off on, about saying that Buchholz was cheating?
Well, I think that since it looked so awkward and he had all the white stuff on his arm, the rosin on his arm, that it just looked awkward to Jack. So he thought that going to his forearm, he must have had some kind of foreign substance there, and it wasn't foreign. It's
something other than rosin.
Yeah, and it's allowed on every pitching mound in baseball. Oh. Peavy just has it on his hat.
His arm, and his uniform. Well, every pitcher looks for an edge. Thought last night maybe Matt Harvey would use the bloody nose to his advantage. The only team that got bloodied were the White Sox. 1-2 to Valdespin, who's grounded out and flied out tonight. And Jordani hits one in the air to center field, chasing Wise back, but he's got plenty of room. Tagging at second is Bird, and he'll go to third. That's the first out.
Well, time now for the AT&T trivia question. If you think you can stump Gary, tweet at SNYTV with a trivia question, and more importantly, and the answer also, and with the hashtag #StumpGary. So it's Wednesday Stump You, my friend.
I just want to know, does our crack staff make sure that the answer is right before they ask the question?
Oh, I would say probably not. I had to have a guess.
Well, that's honest. Here's Murphy, who's 0 for 2, flied out to left, flied out to center. Infield back for the White Sox, who sit with a 3-run lead in the 6th. A rare first pitch ball from Peavy. He's been getting ahead all night. David Wright on deck. So with all the first pitch strikes that Peavy has thrown, how many first pitches have the Mets put in play? The answer, 2. The major league average on first pitches is 333. If you get a first pitch fastball to hit, it's often the best pitch that you're going to get. Peavy now behind on Murphy 2-0 with Wright on deck. And a curveball in for a strike, 2-1.
Boy, that's the epitome of major league pitching, isn't it? Right there, get behind 2-0, and the good pitchers are able to kind of just spin that ball in the strike zone. Hitter's got to take it.
Off the end of the bat, Bird has to hold. Gillespie throws out Murphy, 2 away. So Murphy unable to get that run in from third. 2 out. David Wright coming up. Let's check in with Brian Custer for this game break.
Oh, gee.
Was that our Andres Torres?
That would be their Andres Torres.
Nice.
Yeah, he pitches.
He's a different guy, isn't it?
Plays a little better in that orange and black.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know, we once put Kevin out in a raft in McCovey Cove. I'm not sure exactly what that flotation vehicle was.
That was something out of a 1950s Ed Wood movie.
Sci-fi B movie. Wright has struck out and walked tonight, 0 for 1. Now 2 for 15 lifetime against Peavy, who falls behind him 2-0. Peavy up to 94 pitches. He has thrown 100 or more pitches in virtually every start. 33 of his last 35 starts as Wright pops one a mile high. Down from first, Konerko to Cole, and he makes the catch to end the inning. So the Mets waste a leadoff pinch hit double by Marlon Byrd. On to the 7th now at Citi Field, 4-1 Chicago.
Necessary to McCovey Cove. Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Hello, boys. How are you?
Not as wet as you are.
As you can see, I'm drifting like crazy. How about this? Little skill right there.
Where's Kevin? And that home run distance, and it's in the water. Go! Oh, Kevin. Kevin's a little
no
slow
chance,
on the
Keith. Look how far away that is.
Oh, come on. Show me something.
That was back in Kevin's rookie season.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I knew the guy that had the kayaks that Kevin ended up being on.
That's one of my best memories of the entire thing.
That was great.
The proposition was raised about putting Kevin in the kayak, and you immediately said, oh, I know the guy who rents the kayaks. What? You what? Scott Atchison on to pitch to Alejandro De Aza, and he hits one out to left field. Duda drifts back to grab it, and De Aza's retired for the first time tonight.
Ronnie, you've done a lot of amazing things since I've worked with you, but that was an all-timer. I mean, I'm talking on the plane ride out to San Francisco with Greg Picker, our producer, about the idea. And I believe you were sitting behind us and just popped in. Oh, I know the guy that does the kayaks out there. And sure enough, we show up. Oh, Ronnie sent us. Oh, sure. I got your kayak over here, and John's going to be your guy to get out there. It's unbelievable.
One of the great hookups of all time.
I mean, who knows the kayak guy?
I was just happy that, you know, this was early in your career, Kevin, and I was happy we didn't lose you that night.
Gary, I was worried about two things.
Ike knocks it down and makes the play to Atchison for the second half.
The first one was clearly dropping the mic in the water, and there was a current. I didn't expect the current out there that night, so I was worried about dropping the mic. The other one was dropping myself and having that all unfold and be on YouTube forever.
It would have been a good shot of you upside down, though.
It would have been good. By the way, how about the golf green behind me in that initial shot? Did you like that? I remember that. That guy had the two like forklift crates that he put a putting green on out there.
Well, that experience at that ballpark has become second to none, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's that place is unbelievable. But the kayaks are a lot fewer out there now.
Back in the Bonds days, those kayaks and other watercraft would be wall to wall out in the cove. And they were oft rewarded. 1-2 to Rios, who doubled in a run back in the third inning.
It's funny when you watch Rios hit, he kind of has a one kind of approach to hitting.
And that approach worked.
Yeah, he likes that ball up in the strike zone.
So a 2-out hit for Rios, his second hit of the night, and hit number 9 for the White Sox. So Jeremy Hefner went 6 innings. He allowed 4 runs, 8 hits, an intentional walk, and 5 strikeouts. Scott Rice staying hydrated in the Mets bullpen. There's Connor Gillespie, who had a 2-run pop-up double that really was the crowning blow on Hefner's night. That came in the third inning when the White Sox put together 4 straight hits, only one of which was struck well. Well, one thing about the Mets bullpen right now, because of all the off days and the rainouts, they're all pretty well rested.
Kind of caught their breath, haven't they?
Atchison pitched Sunday in Atlanta, faced 2 batters, threw 4 pitches, got 3 outs. That's high efficiency. Head on Gillespie, 0-2. Well, the Mets had a stretch before last night where they played just 2 games in a 5-day span. Now the off days are going to be few and far between, barring more bad weather.
Boy, it didn't look very good this morning, didn't it? Some bad rain.
And some downpours. I got caught in one of those downpours in the city this afternoon.
You know the game that they called in Atlanta on Saturday? They called it at 2 o'clock. Did it rain that entire day and night? Yeah.
The forecast was one of those ominous 100% all night kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here's the 1-2 from Atchison, the breaking ball in the dirt. 2-2 to Gillespie. Gillespie, former #1 draft pick by the Giants. He was in their system for about 5 years, and the Giants finally decided that his time had passed, and they traded him right at the beginning of spring training this year. Got a minor league pitcher in the deal, and the White Sox, with a need for a left-hand bat on the infield, snatched him up, and so far so good. Runner goes, grounded through the hole, a base hit for Gillespie. Rios took a great break off first, goes first to third. And so the White Sox have runners at the corners with 2 out.
Well, Ike holding on a stolen base threat certainly in Alex Rios, so it opens up that hole, and he sneaks it through.
Murph loves to do those fakes, doesn't he? We need to do a montage of all of Murph's fakes and deeks.
See, the problem, Gary, is that you're supposed to be faking out the other team, not yourself.
I find it entertaining.
Yeah.
Much Murph.
Oh, Rios is running. That's the break he got. That was half-hearted, though.
It's Konerko, and he takes a strike. Murph does not do anything half-heartedly.
No.
Konerko has struck out and flied out twice, 0 for 3 tonight. And he lines one to right field, and that'll fall in for a base hit. That'll bring in Rios. Gillespie goes first to third. 3 straight 2-out hits. Konerko with an RBI is 16th, and it's 5-1 Chicago.
Well, when you're coming in this situation, you have to hold it there, give your team a chance to come back. But what can you do? I mean, that's just like a swinging a paddle. Just dropped it into right field.
Well, the first hit by Rios was well struck, but Gillespie rolls one through the right side. Konerko swings at a slider off the plate and dumps one into right. That adds a run, so the Mets will make a pitching change. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Fios. Scott Rice coming on. We'll be right back. NHL playoffs with recaps of the Rangers Capitals and Islanders Penguins on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5 only on SNY. Scott Rice in to face Dwayne Wise with first and third and 2 out.
Rice pitching on 4 days rest. Only threw 1 pitch in Atlanta on May the 3rd.
It's a great job, isn't it?
Oh man.
Threw 1 pitch to Freddie Freeman. Freeman hit a bullet to right field that was caught, and that was his day's work. And then he doesn't pitch for another 5 days. I mean, if you had to be reincarnated, wouldn't you want to come back as a left-hander?
No.
You'd still be pitching.
No. Especially wouldn't want to come back as a reliever.
Wise is 1 for 3 tonight. And Buck knocks down the potential wild pitch with a runner at third. Well, Troy Hawkins, next man up in the Mets bullpen. Atchison retired the first 2 easily here in the 7th, but then 3 straight hits produced a run to make it 5-1 Chicago. And another one.
Boy, what a good stop there by Buck. I mean, that ball was thrown about 55 feet. It's that turnover kind of changeup that he has. And just perfect form by Buck.
And Wise goes down swinging on the fastball, so Rice comes in to strike out the left-hand hitter. White Sox add a run. We go to the bottom of the 7th, 5-1. After missing a week and a half because of back spasms, he's allowed just 2 hits over the first 6 innings. Lucas Duda had the only one of consequence, a home run leading off the 2nd. Marlon Bird's pinch hit double, the only other hit. And now Duda starts the bottom of the 7th. It'll be Duda, Buck, and Baxter for the Mets as they try and fight back against Peavy, who's been maybe not his sharpest, but certainly has been on his game tonight. Matt Thornton, the left-hander, up in the White Sox bullpen. Duda fights it off. 2-1. The Mets and White Sox wrapping up this brief series tonight. Tomorrow night we get our first look at the Pirates, who are all of a sudden battling more injury woes. Their starting second baseman Neil Walker is out, although he's supposed to start rehab tomorrow and might be back by the end of the weekend. Russell Martin missed the last couple of games because of a neck injury. There's a good changeup by Peavy to strike out Duda for the first out.
Here's a question, Gary, to stump you. Who were the runners on base when Robert Ventura hit his grand slam single in the 1999 NLCS? What a great question.
That is a great question. We're going to to think about this one.
Okay, yeah, no, you got time. You got time. Not a lot of time, but you got some time.
Well, the Mets were down by a run when that inning began. And I know that Sean Dunston led off the inning with 12 pitch at bat, got on base.
Wow.
So he would have already scored. So he was not one of the base runners. So I got that part, but that wasn't the question.
You walk yourself through that inning.
Now, I'm pretty sure that Todd Pratt drew the walk that tied the game. Of course, he was the one who ended up tackling Ventura.
After he went around second, right?
So he would have been one of them. Gosh. Flowers coming back for a look, and that's in the crowd.
If Pratt were hitting, he would be. Was he pinch hitting? I'm trying to put the lineup where it would be.
Well, it was the 15th inning, remember?
Yeah.
So,
but Robin would have played all 15, and certainly would have been a middle of the hitter lineup, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alfonso was in the middle of that somewhere because he generally was.
Yeah. This is still the other side of the moon kind of years for me, so I can't help you.
Well, I'm trying not to lean on anybody, because otherwise, you know what I do? I just run over the radio booth and ask Howie.
Yeah, that's right.
And he tell me.
Who was the guy in the $64,000 question? No helping needed.
So 2-2 to Buck. How long do I have to ascertain?
I would say, next half inning. That we've been given the word by the producer, Greg Picker. Yes, so.
That would give me lots of time to look it up if I were.
Well, you're not going to do that.
Oh, I know.
Yes, we don't do that. We don't play that game.
Well, what would be the point?
Yes, exactly. You're not calling the 900 number when you're working on the crossword, do you? Of course not, right?
I didn't even know there was a 900 number. Swing and a miss, and Peavy strikes out Buck. So back-to-back strikeouts for Peavy to start the seventh. He's got 6 for the night. There's your Rowdy Mets box score. Lucas Duda homered in the second for the only Met run tonight. Marlon Byrd not pictured, had the only other hit, a pinch hit double. Otherwise, a whole lot of offers against Jake Peavy tonight. Last night, the White Sox starter Hector Santiago threw 7 scoreless innings, and we're talking about the White Sox and the great starting pitching they've had for a decade now, as the curveball's in for a strike to Baxter. If Peavy doesn't give up a couple of more runs, this would be the 900th quality start for the White Sox since 2003, which would be the most in the majors over that period.
Now their pitching coach, Don Cooper, who's very underrated, 26 years in the White Sox organization, 11 as their pitching coach, and he's kind of a no-nonsense, throw the ball for strikes kind of pitching coach.
Isn't that what everybody wants?
No, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like he tries to work with each individual. There's not as much of that. Well, just watching film, but not as much emphasis on it. He's talking to Robin Ventura, having a laugh.
When the White Sox swept the World Series from the Astros in 2005, their starting pitching was tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
They had Jose Contreras, they had Mark Burley, they had John Garland, they had Freddie Garcia, who pitched the final game of that World Series. In the league championship series that year, in the 5 games against the Angels, they had 1 relief appearance.
That's right.
Right. The starters went 9 in 4 of the 5 games.
See what Freddie Garcia did in his first start for the Baltimore Orioles? 6 no-hit innings. This Herm Schneider, their longtime trainer with Don Cooper.
1-2 to Baxter, and he fouls it back.
Lots of smiles when it's 5-1.
Peavy up to 113 pitches. 34 times in his last 36 starts he's thrown at least 100 pitches. That's a workhorse. Toward the middle of the diamond, and Ramirez with the turnaround has no play this time. Ramirez has already made a couple of stunning plays tonight. Had no play there on Baxter, who has the third man hit of the night.
Well, just well placed here. You see the second baseman playing over. He has no shot. Great range by Ramirez, but Baxter runs too well.
Well, here comes Robin Ventura, and so that's going to be all for Peavy. He's got the left-hander Thornton up in the bullpen. He's going to make a double switch here and bring in Thornton to face Ike Davis. So 114 pitches for Peavy after getting scratched a couple of times in the last week because of back spasms. Enough for him tonight. A well-pitched game by Peavy, and now the White Sox go to the bullpen. 5-1. We'll be right back.
Zeroed in for the kill as Robin Ventura played Batman once again.
2-1 pitch. The drive in the air to deep right field. That ball headed toward the wall. That ball is out of here! Out of here! A game-winning grand slam home run off the bat of Robin Ventura.
All right, so that was the grand slam.
That's got to help there.
It didn't really help.
No?
Because the only guy you can see in there is the one guy I knew.
But I was saying process of elimination. There were people coming off the bench.
All right, well, Pratt was the runner at first.
Okay.
I did know that.
All right.
The other two, I'm guessing, only because I'm guessing. Because I Davis fouls it off against Matt Thornton. I'd say Alfonso and Olerud.
Okay.
Okay. But that's a pure guess. As the veteran Matt Thornton's numbers, 36 years old, hard-throwing left-hander. And Jordan Danks in to play center. He'll bat ninth. Davis is 0 for 2. Hit one to the center field fence and struck out in his 2 at-bats. And takes that heater outside. All right, so how wrong was I?
I think you got it right.
No.
I think you got it right.
Nope. Off by 1.
Oh, Cedeno. Not Alfonso.
Not Alfonso.
Okay.
All right. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Thornton handles the comebacker and makes the toss to get Davis, and that retires the side. Mets leave 1 at the bottom of the 7th. On to the 8th, 5-1 Chicago.
Scott Rice, the last time the Troy pitched was on May 3rd, 5 days ago, and he got 5 outs in that game.
Things have been getting better for LaTroy after a slow start to his season. Lower third of the order, Tyler Green, Tyler Flowers, and not Tyler, Jordan Danks, the 3 men scheduled up for the White Sox. Chicago 5 runs, 11 hits. The Mets 1 run and 3 hits. Anyway, going back to that grand slam single, here's how the inning went, which now we've looked up. Sean Dunston, 12 pitch at bat, led off with a single. Matt Franco walked, and then Cedeno pinch ran for Franco. So that's how he ended up at third base. Fonzie was up next. Alfonso sacrificed. Imagine that.
Wow.
Then they intentionally walked Olerud. Pratt walked with the bases loaded to force in the tying run, and then Ventura hit the ball over the fence.
Didn't you tell me that Matt Franco could walk with the best of them?
He was the greatest pinch hit walker. In fact, I think he set the record for pinch hit walks in a season.
Really?
I think he had 20 or 21. I mean, you talk about your obscure records. I mean, most pinch hitters go up there looking for the first pitch to hack.
That's
but
right.
Franco had that knack. Now, you asked me the other piece of the trivia question about that. You wanted to know who the pitcher was. And he was the rather obscure right-hander Kevin McGlinchey, who threw the pitch.
By that time, you're in what, the 15th inning?
You know who pitched great in that game for the Mets? Well, a lot of people did because they used 9 pitchers. But Kenny Rogers, who would later be vilified for issuing the bases loaded walk in Game 6 that lost the series. But the other guy who pitched brilliantly in that game, and he was a rookie that season, and he's only lasted forever since, is Octavio Dotel.
It's funny we would get that and still pitching. It's funny that we would get that trivia question because you and I were talking before the game about Roger Cedeno, remember?
Right.
And how he had such a good year that year.
And the fact that Ricky Henderson was a great mentor for Cedeno that year. It's probably the best year that Roger ever had.
Probably the first time Ricky's ever been used with the word mentor in the same sentence.
Green hits one toward the right field line, but that's where Baxter's playing. And that's the first out. So LaTroy Hawkins retires his first hitter. Now Tyler Flowers. Looking at the box score now from that game. The starter was Masato Yoshi, and he only lasted 3 innings. Oral Hershiser worked 3 1/3 out of the bullpen. No runs, 1 hit. There's Deontay Heath in the Chicago bullpen. Dotel wound up finishing the last 3 innings and gave up a run at the top of the 15th.
Wow.
And he got the win. Flowers bounces one down to third. Right makes the long throw on the hop, and safe at first is Flowers. So the catcher Flowers beats out the infield hit.
Well, that's the not knowing who's running. David took way too long, and Flowers, who runs really well for a catcher, hustles down that line and gets himself a base hit. That's something we would see from David 2 or 3 seasons ago routinely that he usually does not do anymore.
The glove tap.
Yep.
Here's Jordan Danks, who came in on the double switch, appeared last night and was the 11th strikeout victim for Matt Harvey. The day before yesterday, he had an 11th inning home run to win a game in Kansas City. Well, we started to talk about the Pirates earlier. They're coming in tomorrow night. There's not a lot of note going on with the Pirates, except that the end of their bullpen, quite unexpectedly, has become an enormous strength. They installed Jason Grilli as their closer this year. He's been untouchable, and Mark Melancon, the former Yankee, has been just as good as the 8th inning guy.
Yankee and struggled, Mark Melancon, when he was in Boston, but he's turned it around. You're right. Jason Grilli's been unbelievable.
These are Jason Grilli's numbers. 14 innings, 7 hits, 4 walks, 23 strikeouts. 0.64 ERA.
You got some nice young players to watch in Pittsburgh, right? As they are growing. Starling Marte in left field.
McCutcheon, one of the best players in the game, playing center. But Troy Hawkins strikes out Jordan Danks for the second out. And Melanson hasn't walked anybody.
Wow.
No walks in 17 innings. Those are the pitching matchups. Saturday is going to be Francisco Liriano. He's coming back from a broken non-pitching arm to make his first start for the Pirates. So that's 3 lefties, Locke, Rodriguez, and Liriano, that the Mets will face in that series. And then Jeanmar Gomez taking the spot of James McDonald, who just went on the disabled list on Sunday. So the Mets will miss A.J. Burnett, who pitched well today and lost in a matchup against Felix Hernandez and the Mariners. And A.J. has been their best pitcher by far.
Ever since he's gone over there. McDonald had a nice first half last year.
Alejandro De Aza, big night tonight for the White Sox. 3 for 4, led off the game with a home run. Got a 3-run rally, started with a bunt single in the 3rd, and then singled to center and stole a base in the 5th. It was fascinating watching an interview with A.J. Burnett during the Pirates nationally televised game on Saturday, and the notion that A.J. is now a leader on that team, considered by many players on that young team to be the leader. Jesse Crane gets up alongside Deontay Heath for the White Sox.
You know what was interesting about that interview is I thought A.J. was very honest. He said, you know, I didn't always get out of my own way early in my career, and you know, I'm trying to be better.
And by extension saying, look, I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done, and I'm trying to teach these guys not to do the things I did.
Wow. A parental moment.
Yeah, we've all been there. Hawkins ahead 1-2 on De Aza. And a check swing, strike 3 call, inning over. Back-to-back strikeouts for Hawkins. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 8th against the White Sox bullpen, down by 4. White Sox finale with insider info and opinion, plus an in-depth preview of tomorrow's series opener against the Pirates on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, part of the SNY.TV blog network. Home 8th inning, Ruben Tejada leads off against Matt Thornton and takes a strike. Thornton, 36 years old and still bringing it.
He's pitching now better than he ever has. He's good for about 70 games a year, and he can do what he's doing here. He can finish an inning and start the next inning.
Gets ahead on Tejada, 0-2. Justin Turner on deck to pinch hit. Thornton started out with the Mariners. He's been with the White Sox since 06. They got him in a trade for Joe Borchard. Remember, big outfielder from Stanford.
That's
supposed
right.
to be a big prospect and never quite panned out.
He played with Miami for a short time too, didn't he?
1-2 to Tejada. Jerry's Familia gets up in the Mets bullpen. Tejada 0 for 2 tonight, couple of ground balls. And Thornton missing with a slider, 2-2. Jake Peavy went 6 2/3, allowed 1 run and 3 hits, walked 2, struck out 6. In line for his 4th win against 1 loss this year. Jeremy Hefner didn't give up much hard hit tonight, and yet he's on the short end of this 5-1 score. As the White Sox try to win a game in Flushing for the first time since 1975. That was when the Yankees shared Shea Stadium with the Mets, and the White Sox came to visit the Yankees. 74 and 75, the grass was never green because that stadium was used every day. Little looper into shallow right, and it falls for a base hit for Tejada. So the Mets get the leadoff man on in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, 2 strike, 3-2 hit from Tejada. What new? I loved his attitude. He was asked, and you guys were on the road, I don't know if you read it, asked him about his prowess hitting with 2 strikes. He said, well, I think of it as 3 chances. I try to make sure I use each one.
Well, he's been the king of 3 and 2, that's for sure. Here's Justin Turner to pinch hit. When you last saw Justin, he was drawing a bases loaded walk as a pinch hitter in Atlanta. By the way, speaking of Atlanta, it was so stunning when David Wright hit that home run against Craig Kimbrell on Friday night. Imagine how stunning it was yesterday when, with 2 out of the 9th, Kimbrell gave up back-to-back home runs to lose a game in Cincinnati.
Mesoraco and Chu, right?
Hit the other way, a base hit for Turner. Tejada will go first to third. Turner stumbles coming around first, takes a header, and has to go back to first base. Meanwhile, Tejada races around to score. So it's an RBI single for Turner, who is shaken up after going down hard between first and second.
Well, nice hitting. We see this by Turner all the time, going the other way. Rios a little lackadaisical there in right field, finally gets it in. By that time, Tejada scores. Watch him going around the base. Remember last year he hurt himself running the bases too, and just catches the edge of the bag, starts to lose it, goes down and hustles back to first.
They're going to call it a single for Turner. They're going to say the run scores on an error by Rios in right field, so no RBI for Turner, just to add insult to injury. So now it's a 5-2 game. Andrew Brown will pinch it for Jordany Valdespin in a lefty-righty switch.
Interesting the dynamics of the Mets team as Robin Ventura comes out.
Yeah,
Turner,
right-hander.
Baxter, and Valdespin seem to get a hit when they pinch hit every single time.
And have trouble hitting when they're in the lineup. Funny game, isn't it? Jesse Crane will come into the ballgame with Andrew Brown announced as the pinch hitter. 5-2 Chicago in the 8th. We'll be right back. for the White Sox.
Well, originally started his career with the Minnesota Twins, came over here to the White Sox where he's been invaluable. Last year, you see his numbers here this year. Last year, 48 innings, he only gave up 29 hits.
Made 11 straight scoreless appearances coming into this game. Andrew Brown was announced as the pinch hitter for Valdespin. Brown, who started last night in right field and went 0 for 2, looking for his first hit as a Met. Mets have a run home here in the 8th. A base hit by Tejada, a pinch single by Turner. Run scoring on an error by the right fielder Rios. So the Mets need one more base runner to get the tying run to the plate in the 8th, with Murphy in right up next. So a big chance for Brown to contribute here against 31-year-old Jesse Crain. Crain starts him off with a slider for a strike. Now Thornton faced 3 batters. Got Davis on a comebacker to start the 7th, but they gave up 2 straight hits to start this 8th. While the White Sox starters have been outstanding this year, the bullpen's been a little shakier. Quickly 0-2 to Brown.
Wow, 2 perfect sliders by Crain on the outside corner to Brown. And you can't throw a better one than this.
Follows that up with a fastball, and Brown has no chance. 3 pitches, and Brown is out for the first down of the inning.
Good sequence of pitches there by Crain. He didn't miss his spot. 2 sliders on the black and upstairs with the fastball.
So 1 out. Turner still at first, and now Daniel Murphy is 0 for 3 tonight. Flying out twice and grounded out third his last time up. David Wright waiting on deck, and Murphy attacks the first pitch fastball and fouls it back. Brandon Lyon joins J. Reach Familia in the Mets bullpen as the Mets try and rally here in the bottom of the 8th. And the curveball bounced foul, and a 2-strike count to Murphy. I'm not sure what Turner hurt when he took that header coming around first base, but he appears to be okay. He's had some injury misadventures on the bases before. Murphy leans back.
Did you hear Murph from vocal? Ooh, because that ball was head high. That's all.
1-2. Got him. Crain strikes out Brown, strikes out Murphy. 2 out of the inning.
Pretty impressive so far. Change up there to Murphy after the high fastball.
So 2 out, and now David Wright. David is 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. Struck out and popped up against Jake Peavy. Wright is 0 for 5 in this series, hitless in his last 8 at bats. Lucas Duda would be next. Some serious heat from Jesse Crain. 1-1. Got a whole bunch of hard throwers in that Chicago bullpen.
And he surprises David with that fastball at 94 miles an hour.
Addison Reed is their closer. We'll likely see him in the 9th if the White Sox hold the lead. There goes Turner, and Wright fouls it off. It's an odd move by Turner, down by 3 runs in the 8th.
It has to be one of those where he's not paying attention to Turner, but still My thought is this: that's just a gamble that I wouldn't want to take. You got your hitter up that can hit a 2-run home run at any time with 2 outs, get you back into this game.
Now Crane ahead 1-2 on right. That one sits high, 2-2. And right swings and fouls back the fastball. A pretty good cut at that.
Grady's getting a much better cut of that fastball up in the strike zone, hasn't he? Bringing back to mind what you mentioned earlier about the Kimbrel home run.
The 464-foot to right center Kimbrel home run. Two coming to right, and the curveball just missed. I mean, he has thrown everything in this inning, hasn't he? He has. You see too many 4-pitch, 1-inning relievers. Now Turner will be running. 3-2 to right. And the curveball, and he walked over. The Mets will get the tying run of the plate. Interesting selection there, considering the situation. Right can't beat you. Now Duda comes up as the tying run.
Oh, that's a bad choice there. I mean, if it works, okay, it's great. But it's a bad choice. You want to challenge David there. And worst that happens, you still got a lead.
So now Duda, who was responsible for the first Mets run, hit his 7th home run of the year into the Pepsi porch in the 2nd. Struck out twice after that against Peavy. And now faces Jesse Crane with 2 on, and the Mets down by 3.
See the defense in the infield swung around a little bit, but no shift on, especially with the runners on.
Turner at second, right at first, 2 down. And Duda takes the first pitch slider for a strike. Lucas has already had two home run games this season. Right fielder Rios playing very shallow. There's a good slider, and it's 0-2.
It's like they all have different charts, right? When you look at the outfield. In the left, the Aza has an accurate arm. In middle, Jordan Danks does not have the arm of Dwayne Wise, and Alex Rios, 79 assists. 3rd amongst active outfielders.
In part because he does play so shallow. 0-2 to Duda. He takes the fastball high, but I don't think we've ever seen a right fielder play this shallow against Lucas Duda.
I wouldn't play that shallow because if he hits it over your head, Duda's in scoring position.
Now Crane ahead 1-2. And the breaking ball got him. So Crane strikes out 3 in the inning, and the Mets strand 2 in the bottom of the 8th. On to the 9th, 5-2 Chicago. Sunday at Citi Field when the Mets host the Pirates at 1:10 p.m. The Wiggles will also be performing 2 songs live prior to the game. Visit Mets.com/The Wiggles for details and tickets. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the game is Gil Walton of the Bronx. Contact Gil's office at gilwalton.net. And by Nissan. Sign and drive today only during Nissan's Sign and Drive event. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Well, this is a milestone. Justin Turner has been taking fly balls in the outfield. Makes his first major league appearance in the outfield. He'll play left. Juan Lagares comes in to play center as Jerry's Familia comes on to pitch the 9th inning.
Well, he had 2 appearances in Atlanta. On Friday night, probably his best as a Met when he picked up the save. And then on Sunday, he came in and pitched a couple innings, giving up 3 hits and a run.
Alexei Ramirez will lead off for the White Sox in the 9th. Well, Troy Hawkins pitched a scoreless 8th inning. Familia now the 5th Met pitcher of the night. Ramirez 1 for 4, but his biggest contribution has been in the field, where he's made 2 sparkling plays. Helped out Jake Peavy during his 6 2/3, and he grounds one down to David Wright. 1 pitch, 1 out for Familia in the 9th. Let's check in with the studio, see what's coming up on WB Mason Postgame Live. Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda. All right, we'll see you guys later. Here's Alex Rios, who's 2 for 4 on the night, a single and a double. He's driven a run and scored 2. And Familia throws a fastball for a strike. Addison Reed, the White Sox closer, begins to get loose in the Chicago bullpen. If you are keeping a scorecard, and I know you are.
Yes.
Turner, of course, in the game batting 9th. Lagares bats first, and the pitcher is in the 4-hole. Interesting seeing Turner in the outfield here. This is something that he's been working toward for a while, trying to enhance his value to this team. This one's driven deep to left. Rios crushing one, and that one nearly made it to the second deck. Alex Rios with his 8th home run of the year to stretch the White Sox lead to 6-2. Rios with a double, a single, and now a home run. A big night for the White Sox right fielder. And the White Sox again have a 4-run lead.
Well, it just opens that front side. He doesn't believe it. I will tell you, though, I got to learn real fast that you don't have to watch those. It's important never to watch those.
Not when they sound like that. The echo's enough. Connor Gillespie's 2 for 4, single, a double, 2 RBIs. The White Sox now with 6 runs and 13 hits. The Mets 2 runs and 5 hits. 2 home runs for Chicago tonight. De Aza led off the game with a home run, and now Rios in the 9th. Familia misses with a fastball, and it's 2-0. So with the Mets struggling to find an everyday outfield, struggling to figure out who's going to play on a daily basis, having to pinch hit for their outfielders repeatedly, having Justin Turner available to go into the outfield gives Terry Collins one more option. And when Turner's been in the lineup this year, he has been productive. So the question is, if you're Collins and you have confidence in Turner's ability to play the outfield, do you run him out there a couple of times a week?
Well, you'd like to try to find a place for his bat, especially now the Mets offense struggling a little. 1 run in 10 innings yesterday and only 2 on the board tonight. Another big strikeout night for the Mets too, right? 9 now.
Paul Konerko waits on deck. Familia behind on Gillespie, 3-1. Yeah, that's ball 4. So after the home run by Rios, Familia walks Gillespie. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Somehow the slow motion seems even slower tonight. Now Konerko had an opposite field single to drive in a run his last time up. 1 for 4 on the night. Pitcher is due up next, and Casper Wells is out on deck. Excuse me, Ron.
Sorry about that, Gary. I was just saying that John Buck's going out to talk to his young right-hander, who now, post giving up that home run, now has lost the strike zone. Probably just telling him, be aggressive. Hitter was lucky. Keep going after these guys.
Mixed bag for Familia on that last road trip. He had the first career save on Friday night against the Braves after the Mets had run through their entire bullpen. And he came back 2 days later and gave up a couple of runs, including a long home run by Freddie Freeman. Konerko tries to keep that ball fair. 1-1. They're trying to get a ground ball from Konerko. And the breaking ball, he went around, and it's 1-2.
Boy, that's good breaking ball there by Familia.
Now the 1-2. And Konerko lifts one to right. Baxter coming to the line. And right up against the sidewall to make the catch. That's the second out of the inning. Geico Sports Night, the only show that's only New York sports tonight. Rangers and Capitals play game 4. Knicks get ready for game 3. Join the conversation. The hashtag SNY Sports Night tonight at 10:30 only on SNY. Now Casper Wells, the well-traveled outfielder, well-traveled just in the last month. Let's see. He was with Seattle to begin the season.
Yeah.
Taken on waivers by Toronto. 12 days later, purchased by Oakland. And then a week after that, purchased by the White Sox. So he's been with 4 teams already this year.
Wow.
Wells pops one up. And Baxter from Whitestone retires Wells from Schenectady, and that retires the side. The home run by Rios makes it 6-2 White Sox going to the bottom of the ninth. Dylan G will be on the mound for the Mets against Jeff Locke. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 6 o'clock right here on SNY. Addison Reed comes on to try and finish things off for the White Sox.
Well, set a rookie saves record for the Chicago White Sox last year with 29. 10 at San Diego State University, where he was the teammate of Steven Strasburg.
It's a big shadow. John Buck will lead off in the 9th inning for New York. Buck, Baxter, and Davis due up. Mets have been behind from the first batter of the game. Alejandro Diaz hit a home run. Lucas Duda tied it briefly with a home run in the second, but the White Sox got 3 in the third and have not looked back. Buck 0 for 3 tonight. So he is now 0 for his last 13 as he takes his final trip to the plate tonight. Jake Peavy went 6 2/3. He's in line for the win for Chicago. And Reed now in a non-save situation trying to close it out. Buck swings at the fastball, 1-1.
He's got a lot of late movement, Reed, who kind of throws 3/4, a little crossfire.
Mike Baxter on deck. Reed, who grew up in Southern California, big Angels fan. Watched Troy Percival and Frankie Rodriguez as a kid, closing games. There's the good breaking ball, and it's 1-2.
It's Francisco Rodriguez, who beat the record of Bobby Thigpen, who had this save record for 18 years with 57.
And Thigpen is now the bullpen coach for the White Sox. Thigpen saved those 57 games pitching for Jeff Torborg in 1991. And then the next year, Torborg came and managed the Mets.
Thigpen played on that Mississippi State school that had some of the best talent ever on one team. Will Clark and Rafael Palmeiro were his teammates. Jeff Brantley. Yeah, that's right. Cowboy. Now, the key to beating the White Sox is make sure that Ken Hawk Harrelson doesn't say put it on the board too many times. If he does, you lose.
Well, it depends if you get the single yes or the double yes.
You know, people know Hawk now is just the announcer for the White Sox. You forget, for the Red Sox in 68 and 69, he hit 65 home runs.
Here's Hawk. Now works with Steve Stone on White Sox TV. Here's the 1-2. Taken for a call, third strike. Out looking at that front door slider.
It's almost like Mark Carlson waited a beat. Let me see. Is this good enough for me to call a strike in a 6-2 game? Okay. It's one of those breaking balls that doesn't really break, stays on the inside corner, and got the call.
So 1 out and nobody on. You know, when Hawk Harrelson was playing for the Red Sox, here as a Met fan, we thought of him as the other Harrelson.
Oh, that's right, because you had Buddy.
Right. Baxter 1 for 2 and a walk. You would never mistake one for the other.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, it's opposite as you can have. I was thinking, you know, after Tony Conigliaro got hurt, the Red Sox were always searching for that right-handed pull hitter that could take advantage of the Green Monster, and Harrelson did it better than most. Remember, Danny Cater was the guy,
right?
You know.
Well, Danny Cater they got for Sparky Lyle.
That's right.
Not a beloved trade in Boston.
Well, you know, Sparky was considered kind of a loose cannon, which he certainly was.
But he really blossomed when he got to the Yankees. You know, in a day before every player had his own entry music, when Sparky came into a game at Yankee Stadium, they played Pomp and Circumstance.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that was cool.
Wow. You better be good.
He was.
He was.
Here's the 1-2. And Baxter takes low, 2-2.
You know, he had a year that year by a reliever that people that are new to the game now would find unrecognizable. For innings pitched, appearances, nothing to be brought in the 6th or 7th inning with the bases loaded and go get them.
Pitch you 2 2/3. And that's ball 3. I think Sparky is still managing in the Atlantic League in Somerset, isn't he?
Like the Blue Sox or whatever they're Somerset
Patriots.
Yeah, there you go.
Been there for a long time now. 3-2 to Baxter with 1 out. And Reed fires, and Baxter drives one to right center. Danks chasing in the gap. He can't get it, and Baxter can keep on running. And Mike pulls in at third base with a 1-out triple.
Well, Robert Ventura made an interesting double switch in the 6th, putting Jordan Danks and taking Dwayne Wise out of the ball game. One of the Wise being one of the best center fielders, and Danks certainly does not have the speed of Wise and could not get to this ball. Line drive hit by Baxter.
First triple of the year for Baxter, the 4th of his major league career. So the Mets have a 1-out base runner for Ike Davis. Ike is 0 for 3 tonight. He was robbed of an extra base hit by Wise back in the 2nd inning, when Wise, who was playing very shallow, went all the way back to the center field fence to reel in Davis's long drive. Reed throwing a lot of breaking balls, up by 4 runs in the 9th inning.
Well, it's that notion of your closers coming in a non-save situation. You never know exactly what you're going to get.
Ball and a strike to Davis. There's a good fastball, and it's 1-2. Ike's latest skid stands at 4 for his last 27. It's been 6 weeks of skids so far for Ike. Ruben Tejada on deck. Now Reed's 1-2, and he gets Davis for the 2nd out. Second strikeout in the inning. That's 11 for White Sox pitching tonight.
Well, you can see the reaction from Ike. Just right now, lost. You know, when I think of hitters and when they are struggling, Gary, especially young hitters or youngish hitters, it's a lack of confidence. Confidence is gone. You're in between. You're behind the fastball, and you're ahead of the breaking ball. And that's where Ike is right now, right in the middle of it.
That's striking out 11 times tonight. That's 12 times in 30 games the Mets have been in double figures in striking out. So the Mets are down to their final out of the night. Ruben Tejada, who had a bloop single and scored a run in the 8th inning, tries to keep the game alive and takes outside from Reed, 1-0.
Reed has an interesting follow through after he releases the pitches. He kind of skips a little closer to the catcher to catch the return throw.
A ball and a strike to Tejada. Addison Reed, just 24 years old. Established himself as the closer last year with the White Sox. Back end of a very talented bullpen. And Tejada lines a base hit, and that'll bring in a run. Baxter comes in to score, so Tejada keeps the Mets alive. It's now 6-3, and the Mets need just one more base runner to get the tying run to the plate. Ruben's 10th RBI of the year.
Oh, nice hitting by Ruben. Fastballs away, all 3 pitches. This one being the 3rd by Addison Reed. Dumped into right field by Tejada.
So now Turner up for the 2nd time. He delivered a pinch hit single in the 8th inning, stayed in the game in left field, his first big league appearance in the outfield. Now, remember that Andrew Brown batted for Jordany Valdespin in the 8th, but then in that spot, Terry Collins brought in Juan Lagares, which I'm assuming he did because he was playing Turner in the outfield for the first time and he wanted to protect him with a better center fielder. Anyway, Lagares winds up being on deck as Tejada takes second on defensive indifference. Unless there was something wrong with Brown. In any event, it's Lagares who winds up being on deck if Turner can keep the game going. And Justin pulls off that slider, and now Reed is ahead of the count 0-2. Mets are down to their final strike. And Turner wraps one toward the middle. Ramirez makes the stop from his knees. He makes a poor throw, and everybody's safe. An infield single by Turner keeps the Mets alive, and now the Mets will bring the tying run to bat in the bottom of the ninth. Well, Ramirez has made 2 stunners tonight, but he should have held on to this ball.
Well, he's been all over the field. Here doesn't get a grip and just launches that ball to Konerko. You know, I've seen him play a lot. I have not seen him make that many great plays. I didn't realize he had that kind of range.
So now Juan Lagares, who's just 2 for 18 in his big league career, has a chance to do something special. Just trying to keep this game alive with Murphy and Wright to follow. 2 out, 2 on, last of the ninth. Turner takes off, and he takes second on defensive indifference. So that takes off the force at second base, which was important when Tejada took second, because otherwise maybe Ramirez might have been able to get a force at second base on the previous play. 1-0 to Lagares. A good slider by Reed. It's 1-1.
Well, the hardest things for a young hitter in a game where you're down by 3 with 2 runners on is your thought should not be of hitting a home run. Your thought should be just continue to keep the line moving. Base hit here, knocks in a couple maybe. Get it to Murphy. Get it to Wright.
1-1 to Lagares. And he takes the fastball. And again, the Mets are down to their final strike. Tejada at third. Turner at second with 2 down. Mets have a run home here in the bottom of the ninth. But Reed 1 strike away from closing it out. Lagares able to waste away that slider and stay alive. Daniel Murphy would be next. That's with their backs to the wall in the bottom of the ninth. Again, the 1-2. And Lagares goes down on the fastball, and the White Sox win the game to split the 2-game series. Jake Peavy with a great outing, coming off back spasms to go 6 2/3 to get the win. Home runs by De Aza and Rios, and the White Sox win it 6-3.
Well, Jeremy Hefner had that tough 3rd inning. Not a lot of balls hit hard that inning, but still gave up 3 runs. The Mets struck out 12 times in the ball game, and Ventura gets a win here in Flushing.
There's your game summary. So the Mets and White Sox split a pair here at Citi Field. Jeremy Hefner falls to 0-4, gave up 4 runs over 6 innings, didn't get hit particularly hard, but enough to beat him today.